Hello Tony, I'm Brad Phillips. I'm here with Puppy Steps Training, and we're going to be doing Daisy's demonstration for you today. Right now she's in the crate. We're excited to get her out and show you what she can do and talk to you a little bit about the training program. Now there's a couple things that I like to just talk about at the very beginning. Doesn't matter whether you're a first-time dog owner or whether you've had dogs all your life and you feel like you're prepared to bring this puppy into your home. The important things to remember is that she's still a puppy, and so there is going to be some maturing and some growing, as well as there's going to be this transition period. You'll hear me refer to that throughout the whole program, just because what that is the first 2 weeks up to 4 weeks that she comes into your home. It's going to be a new environment. She's going to be stressed out. She's not going to know where things are. She's also going to have to develop a relationship with you. And so remember that, and remember that she is a puppy, and to be patient with her, and make sure that you are giving her the necessary feedback that she needs. Whether that be rewarding her when she does something right, as well as correcting her if she does something wrong. Now, over these next few days, I would make sure that you spend time just building a relationship with her. Make sure that you just get to know her and build some trust. She has to look at you as a leader, and she has to learn to respect you and understand that you are going to be her handler. So with that, a couple other things that you most likely already know if you've watched the videos as well as read the manual. First is you're going to hear me use the word okay. Okay is our marker, and so it marks the correct behavior and releases from a stay. So you'll hear me use that word quite a bit, and that is okay. The other thing that you might hear me use is the word no or no. That is our correction term, and that's for when she does something wrong. Now, you have to treat that somewhat as a misdemeanor felony type of deal. Regardless, if she does something wrong, she's going to get corrected. Now, depending on the punishment or how firm the correction is depending on the behavior. So if she does something simple like breaks a stay, I'm going to walk her back. I'm going to have her do it again, as well as tell her no prior, but I'll have her do that behavior again, and that's just a simple no and then do it again. Now if she did something a little bit more serious, like she jumped up on me, she stole food, I'm going to adjust my voice fluctuation and my body language. By adjusting those two things and making them a little bit more firm as well as a little bit more commanding, that's going to give her a firm or a real meaningful punishment versus any type of physical correction you can give, if that makes sense. We do have one type of physical correction, and it's just 2 pops on the leash. And so you're not trying to pull her, it's just 2 simple pops on the leash, just showing her that you are there, you're present, and to get her attention. Along with that, I'll tell her no, or if there's a different correction, like off being one of those needed, that's when I'll give her that feedback. So now we're going to go through the whole program. We're going to start with socialization. I'll just talk about that for a second. Then we'll go into her manners, her obedience commands, house training, leash training. So socialization. Now that is one of the most important things to me. That is the first few weeks that we have her. Basically from the age of 6 weeks to 12 weeks, there's this gap. That's when a dog's going to decide what they're afraid of and what they're not. So if we can get them exposed to new situations early in a controlled environment, we can make sure that we protect against having any anxiety issues or timidness or aggression. As well as if those things do start to come up, that's when we can work on that. And so the first 2 weeks that we had her, she spent time with one of my trainers and their family, and their whole goal was to socialize her. And so she got out with different animals, new people, places, car rides, noises, basically any new situation that we could implement in that controlled environment, we did. And so also she got used to hearing the vacuum being swept, any household chores, things like that. We want to make sure that we expose those so it's not overwhelming when they come into your home as well as into new situations. We also work on the socialization kind of intermingled with some of the more intensive training, making sure that we do different commands on different surfaces. That's a huge one for dogs, as well as exposing new distractions and new noises while we're doing commands and making sure that she's she's doing well and she's not going to have any issues. So with that, now we're going to jump into her manners, and I'm going to let her out, and we'll show you some of that, and we'll just go through the rest of the program. So starting off with her manners, we're going to start with her gates and her doorways. So anytime she comes out of the crate, she goes through a gate at your home or through your house door, I expect her to hold a stay. Now this should be an automatic behavior. I shouldn't have to tell her anything. However, if she does try and break, I might simply close the door, maybe even lift my leg and block her. If she tries to run out the door, I'll have a hold of the leash and I'll bring her back in and make her wait again. It's only if she's really persistent on pushing through that I might actually tell her to stay. But for the most part, it should be an automatic behavior. Okay, good girl. Now I will show you the house door when we go outside, but the expectation is the same, that she holds a stay and waits for me to go through or waits for me to release her. Now the next manner would be what we call her greeting. And so that's when I call her over to me. I expect her to sit before I give her any attention. Daisy, come here. And so when she, come here. Good girl. And I'm going to wait for that behavior before I give her any attention. Now this might be a good time just to talk about a little bit about her temperament. So she is pretty mellow, really easygoing, just likes to take her time. And with the training, you're going to have to be patient with that, because sometimes she just likes to think about it. She'll do everything, but it's kind of on her time schedule a little bit. But she's never allowed not to do it. Right? If you ask her to sit, she's expected to sit. She's never allowed to walk away. You always end on the correct behavior. But sometimes just let her think about it, let her process. But she really is a sweetheart. She just likes to mosey a little bit. Huh. But anytime you call her over to you, before I give her any attention, I'm going to wait for that behavior. That's a good girl, huh? Now, next on the manners would be her mealtime. And so anytime I feed her, which I'm just going to give her not quite half of her meal. And anytime I feed her, I expect her to hold a sit stay. So where she's already sitting, I'm just going to tell her, stay. Now when we do this stay, this is a great time to work on what we call the 3 Ds. And that's distance, duration, and distraction. And so by adding these 3, you build a solid stay. So talking is a huge distraction. I can move her food bowl around. Of course, I can increase distance between her and the bowl, as well as make it closer. And of course, duration being the time span. Okay, good girl. Now, also I like to make a habit, she might not be super hungry right now, but I like to make a habit of sticking my hands down in her food bowl, making sure that she's not going to be aggressive over her food. She's not going to growl or nip at me by touching her muzzle while she's eating, or taking the food away, anything like that. Now I also like to make a habit of just handling her in general, whether it be her paws, her ears, her muzzle, her tail. Just want to make sure that she is not going to be aggressive towards me by handling her. And that's going to make it really nice when you take her in to get groomed, that she's not going to be aggressive over being handled. Good girl. Unique. Now, just talking a little bit about aggression. If any aggression arises, I make sure that we kind of nip that right off the bat, which she hasn't shown any. But there is one time that even with a super well-mannered dog, never shown any mistaken or aggression. Okay, outside. We're going to take her out to the bathroom real quick, where she rang the bell. Okay. Okay, there you can see I also had her wait at the door. And we'll talk about the house training here in just a little bit. But, so going back to aggression, one time that it's mistaken is with children. Now, kids are like the greatest thing to a puppy. They run, they squeal, they make things a lot of fun, and so your dog just wants to play along, and they're chasing the kid that's running, they end up grabbing a pant leg or something like that. And then your next door neighbor thinks that your dog bit their child, and you have a big problem. And so, in the case of children playing with your dog, I like to make a rule that they have to have a toy. That way, while they're running, it gives her something to go after. If they get nervous, they can just throw the toy, and your dog can chase it if they want to. But it kind of gives her an outlet. Good girl. Come here. Now we'll talk about some of the other manners that are going to be really important for you during this transition period. So one is going to be chewing. And so she is just going to have to chew. She just has to. She's teething. And so we train on a base of avoiding and replacing. If you can avoid giving her free access to toys, to shoes, to things that you don't want her to chew on, that's going to be your best way to prevent any accident from happening. Of course, that's not really possible in your home. There's always something that she has access to that she can chew. And so that's where replacing comes in. And replacing is judging upon what she's chewing on, replacing with texture. And so if she was chewing on her bed, I would replace it with something soft, something equal in texture, because they're chewing based on the need that they feel they need in their mouth, right? And so if she goes up and starts chewing on like a table leg or something hard, I'll replace it with something like a bully stick. Something that she can really just get into as well as she likes it, right? The other part of chewing is going to be boredom. And so there's also two parts to boredom. There's the first part that she's bored because you guys are watching a movie or reading a book. You have a downtime where she's just laying on her bed not doing anything. She may get bored and go search for something to chew on. And so in that case, if I have a downtime, I'm just going to give her something like this bully stick that she can just sit there and chew at. The other part of boredom is if she gets bored with her own things. And that's why I never give her free access to her toys or to even like a bully stick. As soon as she's done and she gets up and leaves, I'm going to pick that up and put it away. That way there is still some excitement attached to the object, as well as she's not going to get bored with her toy because she has access to it all the time and she's going to go find something new. So, just a couple tips there. If she was chewing on something though, I would say no, and I would take it from her, ask her to drop it, and then replace it with something of equal texture. Drop it. Good girl. Good girl. Now, the next manner would be jumping. And so that's just something that's very difficult for all puppies, is not jumping up on people as well as things. And so we've worked very hard on that, and we've established the command off. And so that's whether she jumps on you or she jumps up on a chair or a couch or something like that. Tell her off and expect her to get down. That's also where a leash correction can come in hand. For the first couple weeks, I recommend just having her drag a leash around the house. That way you do have a way to quickly correct. And so if she jumps up, I'm going to steal your leash for a second. All I'm going to do is I'm going to tell her off, and it's just 2 pops. Just like that. It doesn't have to be any harder. All you're doing is making it known that you're there, as well as that she should obey that command. Now, dogs do have this pack mentality. They look for a leader, but they also see other members of the family as people that are underneath them in the rankings, right? So that's who she's going to have problems jumping up on or maybe stealing food. And so usually in a house with small kids, it's always the youngest. But there's a couple things to remember. That one, if she tries to jump up on you, it's important that you never step backwards. As soon as you step back, it turns into a game. She's just going to keep coming. Instead, what you'll do is you want to step into the jump. That way you're kind of restricting that space. A lot of times they won't even jump because it throws their timing off. But then if they do, they're jumping straight up. And I'm just going to bring my knee up and block them. as well as I'm going to give them that command, that off command. If she does find someone that she wants to jump up on in your home, then I would take her by the leash and I'd have that person call her. As soon as you walk up and she tries to jump, I'll give her those 2 leash corrections and I'll turn around and walk the opposite direction. I'll do that as many times as it takes for her to just approach them and sit down. It's important that if she tries to jump up, she doesn't get any attention. Alright, you're going to tell her off and I'm going to shut myself off. I'm not going to pet her, I'm not going to give her any attention because that's what she's seeking. And instead, if she comes up and she sits, then I'm going to go down and I'll pet her and I'll give her a lot of attention that way. But she has done really well with the jumping, haven't had very many issues lately, so but just remember those little things. The next 2 commands deal with her mouth. And so first, where she's chewing on this bully stick, I'll show you to drop it. And when I ask her, I expect her just to release the pressure and allow me to take it. I shouldn't have to pull from her. As soon as you pull, it kind of turns it into a game. I'll also show you a couple little things, little tricks, if she ever takes a hold of something that she doesn't want to let go of. And so I'm just going to take it, and I'll ask her to drop it, and I should expect her to let go of it. Sometimes, if it's something really good, like she loves these bully sticks, it's just her opening her mouth just a little bit and allowing you to take it. She's not just going to spit it out because she really doesn't want to give back. Now, if she ever has something that she really wants to hold on to, what I'll do is, if it's long enough, and I can take it on both sides, I'm just going to hold it really still to the point where she's just going to spit it out because it's no longer appealing, she can't move it, she can't chew. Also, if she hangs on to it, I can just turn my knuckles in and pinch her lips against her canines, causing just a little bit of discomfort. The third little tip is I can just stick my thumb right in her mouth and she's just going to open her mouth as wide as she can. I call it her button. I'll just push down on her button, which is her tongue, and she'll spit it right out. Drop it. Good girl. Good girl. Now, the last manner also deals with her mouth, and that's gently. And so I want her to be very cautious when she takes a treat. So I'm just going to put it in the palm of my hand, always in the palm of my hand. That way she's not going to bite my fingers, but instead if she lunges I can just pull it back. But I'll just tell her gently and expect her to be very cautious taking the treat. I never want to feel her teeth. Alright, so we're going to hop into the commands. We're going to start with come and watch me, which are our most basic commands. And then we'll do sit, down, sit, stay down, stay, crate, go to bed. So, watch me is, all I'm looking for is her eye contact. Watch me. Okay, good girl, good girl. So as soon as I see her make eye contact, that's when I'm going to reward her. Watch me. Okay, good girl. I will also use her name in the same manner. Daisy. Okay, good girl. Just looking for that eye contact. That's a really great command to practice a lot because it shows her, or lets her hear how you're going to say things, how you're going to reward her, and all of that. And so it's just a great one to practice. And you can sit here and distract her. Watch me. Okay, good girl. But it's also important to know that with that, anytime you get her eye contact, you know that you have her attention. Because dogs have that single track mind. Whatever they're looking at, that's what they're going to be thinking about. So, great one to practice. Watch me. Okay, good girl. You can also use it along with the come command, because I always lead with her name. Daisy, come! Okay. And I'm always going to be very energetic, very happy with that command, because that's one of your most important commands, but it's also one of those commands that people burn really quickly, because Daisy, come! Because you can be out playing and she's doing something she likes, but it's time to leave the park or it's time to get hooked up, and so quickly they'll build a negative association with the word. And so I like to use it and do repetitions, a couple repetitions with being very positive, very rewarding, to that one time where you have to call her and you have to hook her up. As well, the other way that people burn it is by overuse, and that's usually in the home. You don't have to call her to come all the time. Instead, I might, Daisy, come here! Something like that to get her attention, and that way you're preserving the integrity of that command. Good girl. Oh, that's a good girl. So the next three commands have hand signals, and so the first, Daisy, sit, is just a scoop over her nose, and then down is I'll just take her down with my hand. Now if she stands up like that, most times she's not going to go down, but I'm going to give her just a chance before I ask her again. Daisy, sit. Down. Now one thing to remember, it's all right that she hesitated, because it brings up a good point. Sometimes it's not the dog that's having the issue, it's your body language. And so I might just adjust myself and then ask her down. And by doing so, sometimes I'm in a less demanding way. My form, I'm not hovering over her, I'm not in a defensive position, but it can just help her understand what I'm doing. And so just like that, by adjusting myself, she went down. Good girl. Good girl. Now, I have stays for both of those, and stay is just a stop sign. And so where she's already laying down, I'm just going to tell her, stay. And she has a great puppy stay, but always seek to improve it. Add those 3 Ds, distance, duration, distraction. Okay, good girl. Good girl. Now, sit's kind of the same thing. I'm going to bring her over here and turn her around. Sit. Stay. Okay, good girl. Good girl. Now, I'm just going to show you that down again, just where she did hesitate. Sit. Down. Okay, good girl. Just show you that again. So sit is a scoop over the nose, down, stay. So, good girl. Now, the next 2 commands don't necessarily have hand signals, but I always put myself in a position where she can read my body language. Daisy, come here. And so I'll tell her, crate. At this point, if she were to hesitate, I might tap on the top. I'm going to keep my eye contact in the crate, just so she can read my body language. Okay, good girl, good girl. Now, the same thing with the next command, where I'll just point, go to bed. Now, as long as all 4 paws are on the bed, I don't care what position she's in, but she is expected to stay until released. Okay, good girl, good girl. Now, she's a sweetheart. Do give her time. That's the most important thing, is don't, sometimes she's not going to do a command just right off. And a lot of dogs do this, where they just have to process things. And so that's why I'll give her time just to think about it. But she's been doing great. She's definitely also a little bit tired right now. Had some camera issues, and so this is actually the 4th time that we've done this command section, just because of the camera. So she's definitely a little bit tired, but she's awesome. She really is a great dog, and she's very sweet. But with that, we're going to talk about the crate training and the house training now. Okay, come here. So with the crate training, now we spend a lot of time making sure that she is very comfortable in the crate, that she's not going to have accidents in there. And so right now, she can go 4-hour blocks during the day without needing a break, as well as 8 to 10 hours at night. Now, with that being said, sometimes with the transition, it often causes them to get a loose stool, also have to go to the bathroom just a little bit more frequently. And so, if she is in the crate, she starts to whine, say she's been in there 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever. If she starts to whine, she might just need to go to the bathroom. And so at that moment, I would just take her out, let her use the restroom, bring her right back in. You never want to let her play or get to run around if she's been whining in the crate. Otherwise, she'll keep whining because she wants out. Instead, it's to use the bathroom, right back in. Now, if she starts whining right after you basically shut the door, sometimes she just wants to be out with you, and so allow her to calm down. If she doesn't within, two or so minutes, then I might throw a blanket over the crate, let it be a little bit darker, as well as I might give her a bully stick, something that she can just sit in there and relax with. Right now, we put her in the crate about 10 o'clock at night and get her out between 6 and 7. Also, we feed her in the mornings right after she gets out. Usually it's about 7:30, and we give her a cup and a half each meal. I also feed her at night as close to 6 o'clock as possible. That way she has a good 4 hours to clear her system before she gets put to bed for the night. So now I'm going to teach you how to transition the bell the same way I do. And all I want is her to start hitting the bell. Okay. And the first couple times it's fine if she just bumps it. You can, have her ring it a little bit louder by not rewarding when she just barely touches it. I'll wait for her just to hit it a little bit harder. Okay. And I want her to start really hitting the bell. Okay, good girl. Once she's consistently reaching out, and hitting it, I'm going to move over to the door, and I'm going to hang it on the door. And I'm going to bring her over here, come here, and have her hit it on the door. And I'm just going to sit here and stare at the bell, especially where she's not getting so close. She's not going to be able to go and do other things. I'm going to keep her close, and I'm just going to wait for her to reach out and hit it. I don't want to force her because it's then going to be negative. Instead, I might even, if you're worried about time or you're impatient, you can lure her over. And get her to ring it that first time like that. But then I'm just going to stand here and stare at the bell. I'll let her ring it a few times, and then I'll switch my wording a little bit. And so now I'll switch my wording and start emphasizing the outside word. Outside. Outside. Now the next time she hits it, I'm going to take her out. But I am not going to let her go explore. Outside. Good girl, outside. Now when I do take her outside, I'm going to allow her to go and kind of sniff for her area. I'll give her maybe a minute or two to go. When she does go, I'm going to be very positive. Good outside, good girl. I'm going to pet her, give her a reward, and then we're going to come right back out inside. Now, if I was doing this for the first time at my house, I would immediately take her over, have her ring it again, maybe 2 more times, take her out, give her a minute or 2 to go, then come right back in, and do that repetition 3 or 4 times. At which point, I would set a timer for 30 minutes. I would never let her be about your house without going to the bathroom or without being on a timer for 30 minutes these first couple days. So as soon as that timer goes off, I would walk her over to the door, let her ring the bell, take her outside, bring her right back in, reset the timer. Now if she's in the crate, you don't need to be taking her out every 30 minutes. She should be fine. But after the first maybe 2 days of taking her out every 30 minutes, unless she's in the crate, then start to bump that up to 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours. 2 hours is our standard. I know that she can go a lot longer than that, but for the next couple weeks, I would never let her surpass 2 hours without having a break. You just really want to stay ahead of her pee schedule. You don't want to give her the opportunity to have an accident. And so that's why I make the rule of 100% supervision, and you have to make that same rule. 100% supervision by you or another adult, not a child. If you can't do that, put her in the crate. Use it as an asset. She's very comfortable in there. But you should always be watching her. The other thing that I find it easy is sometimes just to block off a portion of the house. Just keep her in the kitchen and the dining area. That way, if she does have an accident, it's easy cleanup, as well as once she goes, and she goes in a certain spot, then it gets a little bit harder because that smell is going to be there. So 100% supervision, smaller areas, and make sure that she's understanding ringing the bell, going outside. A couple things to look for is, one, if she starts sniffing real heavily, she's probably got to go. If she starts doing circles, as well as soon as she wakes up. Generally, they're also going to have to go within about an hour of eating. Also, for the next couple weeks, I might limit her water, especially if she's inside and the air conditioning is cool. I would give it to her a couple times throughout the day as well as with meals. But she's already going to have to pee a little bit more frequently because of the transition. So don't make it worse by having just tons of water available. The other thing that you might want to do is maybe put a little bit of peanut butter or some bacon grease or something on the bill. Just make it a little bit enticing, that way she can start sniffing it out on her own. But if you do have any questions about the house training, be sure to give me a call or shoot an email, and we want to help you out as quick as possible, because this is one of those deals that as soon as you notice a problem, you need to address it, and if you need help addressing it, please call me. The one other thing with the house training is, if you catch her in the act of squatting in your house, you want to make it very negative. I'll stomp, I'll clap, no, 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 and I'm just going to grab her and run her outside. If you don't see it and she goes, there's nothing you can do. So please give me a call if you need some help. Let's go. So with her leash work, we have two commands. One being let's go, just signifying that we're moving. The second is easy, if she starts to pull. If she starts to pull, I'll tell her easy, and I'll give her 2 taps on the leash, and I expect her to put the slack back into the leash. Now, we do have one other walk that I'm not going to be able to show you, but I just want to mention, and that's an off-leash or a long lead walk. That's just for them to be a dog. And when I do that type of walk, if I trust her completely, I'll let her off-leash. But what I want to do is go up into the hills or somewhere fun that they could just be a dog and sniff and run, and just let them go. And I'll bring a whole bunch of treats along with me, easy. And that way I can just reward her. I'll call her to come every minute or two, keep her checking in, as well as I'm very heavily rewarding that come command. Easy. And the asphalt's probably hot, so I should probably hurry. But I just want you to notice how she responds to me. And so I'm going to tell her, let's go. Let's go. Good girl. Alright, let's go. Come on. Let's go. The last thing I want to say is just thank you. Thanks for allowing us to train Daisy. I hope you enjoy her. She really is a sweetheart. Very calm and easygoing. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.